Hello lovely family and friends, a warm welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is well by God's grace. A few weeks ago I shared with you my ever so smoky Asanka jollof rice, and today I want to share with you how I made this smoky stew in this Asanka. Very delicious and something that must be tried by all who love smoky jollof rice. Okay, so before I turned my stew into jollof, I ate it with some vegetable rice. So let's get into it and I'll show you how. The first thing I did was to pop my Asanka in my oven, right? And then I arranged my goat meat. So this is my goat meat on my tray, and then I popped it in the oven with the Asanka in the oven. So the idea was that the smokiness from the Asanka will infuse the goat meat whilst it's being baked. Okay, so at this point, it was in the oven for about 30 minutes, and then I took it out, turned all of it into the Asanka and covered it with another Asanka, okay, and popped it back into the oven. Don't get me wrong, I didn't know what I was doing as I started this recipe. It just came together in the end. I was just making it up as I went along. I wasn't sure what I was doing, so don't think that I knew from the start. I planned everything. No, I wasn't sure. Actually, I was going to use the meat for soup, but then I'm like, okay, let me make jollof instead. So, yeah. Once the meat was nicely cooked, I set it aside, and the oil that came out of it, okay, I added a little bit more oil to it, and then I started making the stew. So here I have some Wideaba, Calabash, Nutmeg, some Hwentia, and some Cloves. So Hwentia, grains of Selim, and then some pepper, which I added to the oil for it to bloom. I added some chili flakes, some anise seed, and then some black pepper. Then added my rosemary. You can add dry rosemary if that's what you have. So I let it bloom by letting it fry a little bit before I went in with my onions. Okay, so then the normal way that we make our stew. So for the spices, let it bloom for about 2 to 3 minutes. So that's what I let it fry in the oil for 2 to 3 minutes before I added the onions. The onions, you can add whatever you have, but I just wanted to mix it. Okay, some mixed fries always help, red and white. Anyway, so yeah, you let it fry until it's translucent. Then you add some tomato puree or tomato paste, right? Or what we call in Ghana tin tomatoes. I stirred it in until it's nicely mixed. Then I added my beaten and then my chili mixed. Okay, so what the plan was for them to fry together so that I don't have to wait until the tomatoes or tomato puree is nicely fried before I added that. So they should do their thing together. Right. So cooking with Asanka can be a bit tricky. Okay, it can be a bit tricky if you are not very competent in the kitchen, right? It must be easy, but then it can be tricky at the same time because Asanka retains a lot of heat. It retains a lot of heat. So at some point, your Asanka will be very hot and your stew can be boiling without any heat or any fire. So you have to bear that in mind. You have to have that at the back of your mind if you are going to use your Asanka to cook. Otherwise, you can burn it. Yes, you can burn it. Right. So I've added my tomatoes. I just added some tomatoes to my mixture, and then I have this tomato paste that I have made. I'll share the recipe with you very soon, possibly on the other channel. Yeah, I'll share that with you very soon. So I added that. This one has a lot of goodness in it. It's got a lot of ingredients that makes the tomato sauce very, very nice. Okay, so it elevates the flavors of your dish anytime you add it to any dish. So my jollof media, apart from the smokiness and the taste, was jet. Trust me. Okay. So where I got all my tomatoes from, I washed it, and that is the water you see me add. Okay. So from my mason jar and from my tins where I got all the tomatoes, I rinsed it and I added it, and I'm adding my B10 to it, and I'm going to give it a nice good stir for it to, and leave it for it to simmer or cook, right? And then we'll continue from there. Obviously, salt. Salt is very important. If you noticed, I did not add any seasoning to the meat. Okay, so we're going to soak this meat in the stew, getting to the end, so that the meat can absorb all the juices from the meat, all the juices from the stew, so that when you eat it, it will not be bland. You know that anytime I am steaming my meat, I always say add your salt and everything. But as I mentioned earlier, the plan was not to make stew with this meat, it was to make soup. So I was planning to steam it later on, but then I changed my mind. So it was too late to add any seasoning. But then I rectified it. Okay. So I had this stock. Okay, I had this stock sitting somewhere and I added it to my stew, because obviously there wasn't any stock from this meat. There was some water which I added along the way off camera. And if you can notice, or if you've noticed, the positioning of the asanka has changed. That is because I've moved it onto a smaller burner, right? So that my stew don't burn, because the burner I started with was big and I needed to regulate the heat proper. So it's on a smaller burner, on low on the smaller burner, and the asanka is doing its thing. So I added my meat and I'm going to let it sit for it to soak all the juices from the meat. And it was good. This is a good one. And the smokiness, I don't need to tell you. You now, you know that you have created something great. Okay, and forgive me, Charlie, I'm using a new phone and the camera system, so sometimes it changes to cinematic, then it goes to something else, confusing me, sir. So the colors have become some ways, but trust me, the color doesn't affect the taste. It is very good. Yeah, so I am very happy to have been able to bring you this recipe. I hope you give it a try. I hope you like it, and thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the very next one. Bye.